Tyler, what advice would you have for a single mom who is trying to adopt? I'm getting a match to accept her. Are you looking to get an infant? Are you doing infant adoption? You're working out. Okay, great. So, like I said, I don't think adoption. I don't think adoption should be a system to service adults. I think it should only be used to service children in crisis and in need. So, I think a lot of people who are prospective adoptive parents, like I said, and people can be mad, it's fine. I think it's super important to ask yourself why you want to do this. It's because you want to be a parent. Because you want to know know the experience of being a parent and raising a child. And that's valid. That's so valid. And I think that it deserves space to filter through it and just understand. However, if you're unfortunate that you can't have your own babies, I think that in itself, that kind of grief and loss needs to be handled first before making any decisions about being a parent. So I think dealing with that first is super important. And then I think through that process, like I think you'll come to a better understanding of your intention with wanting to adopt. And I also think there's a big difference between infant adoption and older children being adopted through foster care or whatever that is. So I'll be very clear. I want this to be so very clear to people. Foster care adoption should not be a second option to infant adoption. So if you want to adopt an infant or adopt just to be a parent, then foster care adoption is not for you. Foster care adoption should only be to help a child that's in crisis and to hopefully reunify with their biological parents if it's safe to do so. So I think people get pretty confused, like, oh, well, just go. Well, if you don't want to, if infant adoption is not good, then just go adopt from foster care. It's like, no. That's usually a good sign that you're not a good candidate for foster adoption, because foster care, that system is designed for children, to help children that are experiencing crisis. So a lot to unpack, right? I think adoption needs to be reformed. I don't think infant adoption, I don't think is really necessary. I think people confuse adoption with, like, adoption's not a requirement to provide safe external care for children. There's so many different things. Kinship, there's guardianship you can do. A lot of different things. Adoption is a legal process. It's nothing to do with becoming, a parent or whatever. Like it's to, it's different. It's not it's not anything other than a legal process, right? So yeah, I don't think adoption is necessary. I think people who want to provide safe external care for children, you don't need to adopt, unless it's necessary. Like I said, unless the child's biological parent isn't safe, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I also think that we should focus, I think we need to focus our efforts on family preservation, right? So why, and I'll give you a good example. I actually saw this recently, but there's a GoFundMe. And a woman was had a whole video. She's holding up a onesie saying, "We're adopting," whatever. And it was a GoFundMe. And it was like $40,000 that she's trying to raise to adopt any newborn. And it got flooded with donations, and she had like a little bio about her struggles with infertility and how, well, you know, God's calling her to do this and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, lots of money. And then I see a GoFundMe from a single mom who just lost her job, and she can't afford daycare. And instead of donating to her, the comments were horrible, saying you shouldn't have had kids, you should be on birth control, you should have aborted, you should, all these things, cruel things. And I think in my head, I'm like, what? You're willing to donate to a GoFundMe for, you know, this woman who struggles with infertility and wants a baby, but and you're willing to give all the money to that. Like, how, and all the comments are like, God bless and good luck and all this, and prayers for you, whatever. And then this woman humbles herself enough to go and do the same thing, but she's a parent and a single mom, and there's judgment, criticism, cruel things. No one's donating to her. Isn't that weird? What are we doing? So anyway, example, family preservation, guys. Why are we not focusing our efforts and resources to keep families together? I don't understand it. We should all want that. And like I said, I'm against all unnecessary adoptions, right? And to break that down further, I think a majority of adoptions are unnecessary because there's so many ways to provide safe external care for children without the legal process of adopting them and stripping them of their origins and sealing up their their records and their birth certificates and all that kind of stuff. And I think it comes down to, like, talk to adult adoptees who go and look for they want medical information. They want their original birth certificate, and they are stripped of that right without even knowing it until they get to a certain age and they try. Oh, dang, look at that. Ooh, Earth is waking up. So, yeah. Yeah, so... Sorry, I got in a, if it's about adoption, I'm down. That's really sad. Well, this person said, well, this is a perfect example right here. Well, we had a daughter who lost all her 7 kids, and foster care wouldn't give us her family, the kids. They gave them to strangers instead. What did we do wrong as her family? Nothing. And I would say that's a pretty common thing to happen, which is, like I said, why that should be the first option, right? If the child is removed from a home because it is unsafe or the parents are going through a temporary crisis, the first thing they should do is reach out to family. Wouldn't that be the most common thing? Oh no, mom and dad are having issues. Let's call grandma. Let's call grandpa. Let's call uncle. Let's call aunt. Because I don't understand. So that's really sad. And that's a problem with the system. And the reason why the stranger is prioritized over kinship or other family members is because there is a obligation to fulfill. There is a lot of people looking to adopt children for their own, I would say, their own personal reasons. So they're prioritized because there's I think 40 adoptive parents versus one available child to adopt. Don't quote me on it, but there's the ratio is very. So yeah, so a lot of the goal is to get more babies that are available to fulfill the client's need, which is the client is the adoptive parent. So I think that's why a lot of the times adoptive parents get prioritized over everybody else, including the adoptee the birth parents, and even the birth parents or their family, obviously, which I think is weird. I think I don't think we should be prioritizing prospective adoptive parents over the needs of adoptees and birth families. So, yeah. Yeah, see what I'm saying? That happened with my niece. They adopted her out to complete strangers. No one in the family got her. Why? Well, it's because they have a quota to fill. And this person's right. It is a money game. So, and that's what I'm saying. So you need to take the commodification out of adoption. There should be no money involved, right? Go to your, I urge everybody to go to their courts and see what it costs. Step parents, go to the courts and say you want to adopt your stepchild, right? See how much it costs to do that. Just see how much it costs, because it is nowhere near the amount of money that these adoption agencies or lawyers or whatever you want to call it, firms, are charging. So that begs the question of why is it so expensive? Where's the money going to? And what is the purpose of it? We are the only country in the world that commodifies human life in the adoption industry. We're the only country that's doing it. Why? What's going on? And it's because, unfortunately, we live in a capitalist society where we prioritize profits over people. So the adoption industry, as it is very, it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work. So, yeah. So what is this? We did a step parent adoption. It cost us $6,000. So $6,000 versus $40,000, $50,000 is the average that it costs. Yeah. Where's the money going? And I asked the question knowing the answer. The answer that the money is going to is marketing. If you look up they're all not, a lot of these pieces are nonprofits. You can look at their, you can break down all their income and revenue and all that kind of stuff. So, and a huge, almost like the biggest chunk of their money that they get goes to marketing. What does marketing look like for an adoption agency? Okay, well, you'll see it a lot if you just Google young pregnant mother, pregnant mom in crisis, don't know what to do, whatever. It'll say sponsor. I mean, you'll get a list, try it in all states, whatever. You'll get a list of adoption agencies. That'll say, give us a call and whatever. We'll give you a free ultrasound and all this stuff. Which I think is super strange that in America there's billboards. You ever see the billboards? There's billboards out there marketing towards adoption. And I think that's really strange that we've allowed in America to, this capitalistic, greed obsessed society, that we actually have billboards. We're spending money in marketing women to relinquish their children that are experiencing a crisis. And to me, that is the same thing as taking advantage taking advantage of people and women specifically in crisis. That's insane. And I think a lot of the agencies use this nonprofit, way to make it seem not so crazy. However, the CEO of that nonprofit is raking in $250,000 a year. And it's supposed to be, for the good of the people and to service others, and that's kind of crazy. So, yeah. And right here, my sister's doing adoption. It's unreal the money they charge for so many things. A home visit, $5,000. And it's interesting because these people who do the home visits, they're not regulated. So what a conflict of interest for any adoption agency to, get a client, which is the adoptive parent, and then they do a home study, and we'll send someone we know to do that. I really believe that whoever does home studies to approve families to adopt should be an unbiased, maybe a federally regulated system that is separate from all adoption agencies. So, because isn't that weird? Like, oh, well, don't worry, we'll do a home visit, but conflict of interest, like the home visit should be separate completely. So I don't know, that's yeah, it's just horrible. This is eye-opening. Why are they not auditing adoption agencies to make sure we are doing things the right reason? Who regulates them? That's the problem, Elle Bee. Adoption is not regulated. I mean, it's not. And that's a problem, right? That's what I'm saying. America, guys, if you believe that it is right to commodify children, then I guess we have nothing to talk about. So like, dude, I don't know. But I'm excited because we cover a lot of this in the documentary film that I'm working on and producing, and we talk a lot about the history. We talk about how adoption even started in this country. You know, if you don't know, Georgia Tan was she was the matriarch of how we look at adoption today, and she was notorious for stealing children, trafficking children for very wealthy elite individuals who also were politically involved. And so that's why we have so many laws about that really are not for the adoptee. I mean, the law that a record is sealed, no, the adoptee is the most affected by this whole system. They have no consent. They have no rights. I mean, the rights are just stripped from them. I mean, people had to fight in court to allow records to be unsealed. That's a problem. And that the only reason that a law would be in place to stop an adoptee from receiving information or original birth certificates or whatever is to protect the industry and the adopted parents. Again, an example of prioritizing the wrong people in adoption, constellation, triangle, whatever. So we got to fix it. What are we doing? So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like people just learn about it. Learn about the history of infant adoption in this country. And I think learning the history, I think you'll come away from it being like, oof, this feels really weird. And also the fact of, adoption agencies kind of using this open adoption, it's a new age thing. Open adoption really wasn't popular until the mid 90s, early 2000s kind of thing. And the reason why open adoption was even marketed or came to the industry at all was because they were running out of babies, and they're like, what the hell do we do? Because we have these 500 clients who are looking for children who are going to pay good money to get this child, but we have women who are just not relinquishing anymore. How do we make adoption more appealing to these women in crisis? Oh, we'll sell them the idea of open adoption, intermingling, being able to have access and talk and have relationships with the children they relinquished and the adoptive parents who are going to be raising that child and all that stuff. Open adoption is not legally binding. So unless open adoption was federally, legally a law that had to be fulfilled, then it is nothing more than a coercion tactic, because you're having these birth parents signing this open adoption agreement that is really just typed up and signed. Like there's no, I can't do anything with that agreement. I can't go to the courts. I can't go to the judge and say, oh my God, they're not listening. It's not notarized. It's not. So there is the concept of open adoption to me, since it can't be enforced through law, then it is nothing more than a coercive tactic to get women to relinquish. So, yeah. Like I said, how do you how do you categorize adoption being an ethical thing when we're commodifying children and human life? As long as money's involved, it's not going to be ethical, in my opinion. So, what? Oh, my wife's on here. Hey, girl. I'll just talk about you. Well, early in the video, but that's funny. I love the questions though, guys. I mean, it's obviously something that I'm really passionate about, and I really I hope everyone, if you can, go to All You Have Is Love is the name of the film, and it's really important. It's I can't wait to show you guys more of it and hear about it. I think it's really it's very much needed. It's hopefully I hope it changes a lot of things, and I hope it inspires people to learn more, to advocate more, listen to adult adoptees, listen to adoptees. It's just be in the space, give them space, and we'll figure it out. So, yeah, TLC had an eye-opening documentary about the doctor who just handed over babies, no legitimate paperwork. Yes, this is a real thing, out the back door. Look up Georgia Tan, okay? Would you just look up Georgia Tan and what she's known for, and you will be like, what the hell is going on? So do you have different feelings concerning Dawn then with open adoption and how it was sold to you? No, and I'll tell you why. Because my firm belief is that Dawn entered this space really with the pure intentions of helping people, and that's why she got her social work degree, is to help people and to be of service. And I'll be honest in saying that I think her passion for that got hijacked by this industry. And the industry does a really good job of pulling these people in and saying, oh, this is what we're doing, it's so great, blah, 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 this is how you do it. And if your intention is just, and you're passionate for just helping people, you're gonna be, oh yeah, sure, this is how I help people. You're telling me this industry, this system, this organization, telling me, hey, this is how you're gonna use your expertise and your passion to help people. This is how you're gonna do it. Oh, okay. Like, you're not gonna question it. You're just gonna be, okay, this is how I do it. So I actually think, and I feel the same way for my daughter's parents. That I think they also got screwed in their desires for adoption. I think, they wanted closed originally, and they slowly opened the door, and I think they should have never slowly opened that door. I think they should have stuck to their original desires to not have an open adoption. And so I think they also, I feel bad because I feel like they also got screwed. They also didn't get what they wanted out of the adoption. So they deserve to have what they want and whatever, and to look the way they want to look. And I think so do birth parents. So I think, yeah, it's just unfortunate, really. And I'm having a hard time I'm trying to find, okay, like people are like, oh, well, they'll ask me the question a lot, oh, so there's no ethical adoption. And I'm like, I haven't found one yet. I haven't seen it. I'm specifically talking about infant adoption, not foster care. It's a totally separate thing. I have not found it. So, the ethics seem to be, just not there. So, yeah. Can you agree that sometimes adoption is the best thing for the child, saving children from abuse and neglect? Absolutely. Like I said, this is different than infant adoption, right? So, if the child is not safe, right, then by all means, yeah. I mean, I think that they should be, I'm going to explain it, they should be removed from the danger, correct? But like I said, adoption is not necessary to provide that child for safe external care. You don't need to adopt the child, change their name, strip them of their birth certificate. You don't need to do any of that. You can still take the child from the danger and say, I'm going to love this child and raise this child and help this child. and hopefully their parents get better or become, evolve so they're not unsafe or whatever. And you don't need adoption to do that. There's multiple other ways to go about helping children with safe external care. So you don't need to strip them of their rights. You don't need to strip them of their birth certificate. You don't need to, it's not necessary. So like I said, yes, I think when it's safe to do so, critical that you understand this. When it's safe to do so, it is always the best for the adoptee to be with the biological parents or have a relationship with them or whatever. Like it is the best. It's so when it's safe to do so. And when it's not safe to do so, I think we should work and focus more on the systems that handle those situations better. We should do a better job. Yeah, agree, because Dawn comes off with true, kind, genuine intentions. I'm telling you guys, if it wasn't for Dawn, I think our adoption would have closed years ago. So, yeah. Do you think how accessible DNA testing is now will change the industry? Kids can find their parents much easier. It is changing the industry. It is. Which thank the universe that there is Ancestry and 23andMe and all that kind of stuff. People are able to find, they're able to actually, and what's great about it is that the laws that are in place in certain states that seal the records, though adoptees can't get their medical information, this Ancestry DNA and 23andMe is actually creating an alternative route that they can do this themselves. It's their own, they're giving them their own agency, which I'm telling you, most adoptees struggle with feeling that they don't have their own agency. So it's really, it is changing. I don't know if you ever watched Relative Race, but it is that a lot of it's due to the ancestry, the DNA kits to find these people and reunite them. And so it's definitely changing the industry for the better, in my opinion. And I also want to acknowledge that there are reunions between adoptees and biological parents that are not good. Okay, like it. Sometimes reunification is not the best. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's disappointing. But at the end of the day, regardless of the negative outcomes that come from that, the adoptee still deserves the dignity to learn that truth themselves. So I'm not saying that every reunification is glorious and amazing and heartfelt and great. But I'm saying that every adoptee deserves the right to pursue that reunification. So, yeah. They changed my social security number when I was adopted. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's so, and people think, oh, well, you have to adopt. No, you don't. You don't have to adopt, guys. This is a legal process. You don't have to do this. If you want to help a child in crisis, you can provide that care for that child without adopting. You don't have to do this. So anyway, child can choose if they change the last name and older. The child shouldn't have to choose, is what I'm saying. The child shouldn't have to choose to change their last name or even be forced to live 18 years of their life with a last name that they don't feel identifies with them or whatever. So, yeah, of course they can change their name. I could change my last name right now. You know what I'm saying? But like, they shouldn't have to. Adoptees never asked to be adopted. They didn't consent to any of their identity being stripped away or changed. So yeah. Do you think you'll have a close relationship once she's 18 and can make her own decisions? I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously I hope for us to have a relationship if that's what she wants. If that's what's important to her. I don't want to have a close relationship if it's not what she wants. I think she should be the complete driving force behind that whole thing. And also 18 is not some magical, age of a number where they're like, oh, I'm 18, I'm going to go, find my birth parents and build a relationship with them. There's a lot that goes into it. I've heard a lot of stories about adoptees not even exploring their birth origin families until they're way older. They actually have their own kids. A lot of the times, excuse me, that I noticed that they will have their own children, and it really brings up a lot for them. A lot of the times it's because most of the time that child that they have is the first biological relative they've ever seen in their life, and it's their baby. And so it brings up a lot of stuff. And they usually get curious around that time. So 18, and that could be at any age. So 18 is not just some magic number, especially when you include stuff like indoctrination certain beliefs and whatever and stuff like that. So it's not a magic number. So there are adopted and foster parents that are any good. Yes, there are. There are, guys. I'm not saying there. I mean, I know there are. I know that there are good, good-hearted adoptive parents and foster parents. Yeah, but there's a lot that aren't, and there are a lot of children that suffer because of that. So, yeah. This one, I don't know. Are you aware that the New Jersey opened the records and original birth certificates are available? No, but great. That should be not a thing, right? I don't think any records should be sealed from adoptees. Why is that a thing? What's going on? There's no other reason to seal these records other than to protect the adoptive family or the parents. And I don't understand this. Adoption should be child-centered, adoptee-centered. Like I said, that should be a federal law across the whole of the country. No record should be sealed from adoptees. And the fact that they are sealed still to this day in 2025 doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm glad that New Jersey opened all right, everyone else, come on. Like, a little too late, but let's get there. So, can you not sue? Sorry, I haven't been keeping up with it all. I'm in Australia. So adoptions in Australia, very vastly different from America. Almost unheard of. Am I so frozen? Yeah, Australia is completely different, and it's almost unheard of adoption over there because they prioritize family preservation first over the clients that are adoptive parents, because they're not commodifying children over there. They don't have an adoption industry that's making multi-million dollars every year. So yeah, I don't know. Very different. Like I said, it's a very uniquely American problem, issue, whatever you want to call it. It's unique to America. Like, we are the only country in the developed world that have this kind of industry. So yeah. Okay, so this person says, an adoption isn't always necessary, but the kids deserve permanency as well. It is very sad to watch a child ripped from the only foster parent mom they've ever known simply because they are not blood. I definitely sympathize with the fact that the child being ripped away from a foster parent back to a biological parent, and I agree that sometimes maybe it's not needed, or like I said, that's because the foster care system is also needs reform. Hugely needs reform, right? So instead of us, imagine, I always say this, but if adoption industry in America is a multi-million-dollar industry, why are we not taking? We could use those funds, right, to restructure the foster care system, which I think we should do. Like I said, prioritizing family preservation. And yes, if you are a foster parent, you will know and understand that the point of this is for a unification for the child when it's safe to do so. So, yeah, I mean, we got to work on that system too. Trying to get to other questions, guys. Sorry. See, a lot of people are commenting saying that they know a lot of friends and people that they know that were adoptive parents who were really horrible to the children, use the money for not good stuff. Sorry, there's so many questions and comments. Ooh, whoa. That's intense. The only bonus is that they've done a great job raising her. And I would agree with that. I mean, obviously from what I see, right? I'm like very grateful that they have raised her, from my perception, in a decent way. They're not, she's not being abused and that kind of stuff. So I'm very grateful that they were able to provide her a life that I wasn't able to do at 16. So I am very grateful. I'm very grateful. But I think two things can be true at the same time. I can be grateful and I can be hurt. I can be grateful and I can feel that things are just unjust. So yeah, and I think you'll find that a lot with adoptees is that, everyone, if an adoptee says, oh, my experience was this or that, or it was difficult, I had identity issues, or I had a hard time connecting, my attachment problems, whatever, everyone always just shuts that down and says, yeah, but aren't you so happy you had a family that loved you and chose you and raised you? Which reinforces the idea that they're not allowed to have those intense feelings and that they should just be grateful. And they should prioritize they should prioritize being grateful over feeling what's natural for a lot of adoptees and kids who are, relinquished. So two things can be true at the same time. They can be very grateful for their adoptive parents and the love that they have, the family they have. They can also, at the same time, feel a lot of sadness and trauma from being separated from their biological family. That's valid, and I think adoptive parents have a responsibility to hold that space for them. You know what I mean? And to not react like a personal attack when they say, "Well, you're not my real mom, you're not my real dad," and whatever. You know what I mean? Like just you're an adoptive parent, so you have a responsibility to hold that space and not take it personal. And I've just heard a lot of stories of adoptive parents, more specifically adoptive mothers. I don't know why, but they take things very personal when their children don't do what they're supposed to do, live up to their expectations, or represent that mother's family values and stuff. And they take it very personal, like it's crazy. And like I said, there's got to be a common denominator with them all, because I don't know, there's just something going on there. I'm not sure, like sociology wise, like there's something happening with a lot of these adoptive mothers. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, some people are commenting saying, it's like guilt tripping those babies, and it's like, these babies they experience tremendous loss from being separated from their mother. It's called maternal separation trauma. It's a very real thing. Cortisol levels rise in the brain, neural pathways get disrupted, which affects the nervous system. I mean, so adoptees get really upset with me when I say that adoption always begins with trauma. I'm not, and they're like, a lot of the times they'll yell at me and say, like, don't tell me I'm traumatized. I'm like, I'm not telling you you're traumatized. What I'm telling you is that you experienced pre-verbal trauma from being separated from your biological mother when you couldn't even have the capacity to know what was happening. So, it's how it works. That's what happened. So yeah, the guilt trip and the whole babies thing, it's like, they are automatically wired to stay safe. And so they're going to do a lot of things that are going to pacify the adoptive mother or the father or the family and They're going to walk on eggshells, and they're going to have difficulties with separating unconditional love from conditional love. They, even if the adoptive parents are the best in the world and they're amazing, they love them and all this stuff, the adoptee still may experience some of that stuff. So it's like, that's why I always say to prospective adoptive parents that it's so important to understand what the intention and why you're doing this. I actually just saw a video on TikTok recently, and she was talking about, she was crying on the floor, and she was like, we had a failed adoption, and she was crying and saying how hard it was to not be able to come home with that specific baby. And then literally 2 weeks later, they were posting a video about them and their new baby, and I just kept thinking in my head, like, see how that is? Like, so is your intention to have a brand new baby so you can be a parent because you want to be a parent? Or is it to help children in crisis, which is what adoption is supposed to be about? Adoption, again, is not supposed to be a service for adults to fulfill their dreams, their own personal dreams of being a parent. It's not. I know that's hard. That's hard to hear and digest. And I think people are confused with the fact that, well, I have a right to be a parent if I want one. Or if I want to be. If I have a right to be a parent. That's my water. Because I'm over to this tarp thing, just so you guys are aware. That was water from being rain and coming off the thing. But, they think that I have the right to be a parent if I want to be one. If your biology doesn't let you do that, then unfortunately, that right isn't granted to you. And to use a system designed to help children in crisis, it's not a way to fulfill that belief that you have the right to be a parent. No one has a right to be a parent, and no one has the right to anyone else's baby, regardless of whatever trauma they're experiencing, or grief and loss, or whatever. So again, I think if you're wanting to adopt a baby, ask yourself why, and explore that in depth. Not just, it shouldn't be as simple as, because I want to be a parent and I deserve to be a parent. And I think a lot of the time, and I know this is, take it for how you will, whatever you want to call it, whatever you say, take it as negative, bad, whatever. But a lot of these families who I see that are saying, "Oh, we have our baby, we just got adopted this baby," and everyone's comments and even in their description of the video talking about, I've always known it was God's will. It was God's will for me to be a parent. This is God's work. This is God's plan for me, whatever. And so my question to that is, well, why can't you accept the fact that it was God's plan for you just not to be able to have biological children? Was it not God's will for you to not be able to have your own child? And was it God's will to have a woman in crisis with a baby who she can't raise because of multiple issues, poverty, whatever, and it's a temporary crisis for her? Like, so was it God's will for this birth mother to be traumatized and having to relinquish her child and to separate from her child? And was it so you can be a parent? I don't know. I think it's interesting how they say, well, this is part of God's plan. Well, I think it was part of God's plan that you can't have children. And that is horribly upsetting and devastating. But instead of rushing for a Band-Aid fix to that thing, you should not rush it and go to therapy and deal with that grief and loss and acceptance of, I cannot have biological children. And in the same sense that you say, oh, it's God's will of this, well, it's got that, and maybe that is God's will. Maybe you need to have peace with that. So And I think people, I mean, obviously, people have, very intense opinions about that perspective. And this is just my opinion. That's how I feel. Why is it so easy to accept that it's God's will to destroy a birth mother's emotional well-being and traumatize baby and mother to fulfill your dream? And why is it God's will for that to happen, for you to be a parent, but not God's will for you to not be a parent? So anyway, a Band-Aid fix, ? So leave all those babies in foster care. I'm not really sure where you're getting that. I've always, I very clearly said about the difference between infant baby adoption versus foster care adoption. Two totally separate things. Foster parents are not the same as private infant adoptive parents, okay? And they shouldn't be the same. They should be completely different. The intention to be a foster parent is for providing safe external care for the child that's experiencing crisis, for the goal of reunification down the line when it's safe to do so with their biological family. Foster parent is not designed, or you don't agree with that, you should not be a foster parent. It's not for you. It's always best to leave that decision up to the child, right? And I said that boundaries should be in place for safety reasons, for, there's so much nuanced situations that happen with it, but at the end of the day, the boundary should not be for the adopted parent. It's comfort. Yeah. I think it's interesting, you keep saying this, but you signed up for that. I signed up for an open adoption. That's what me and my wife signed up for. And no, they didn't come to me. They came to the adoption agency that I used. Yeah. I think it's interesting how it's well, you signed up for it, so deal with it. Well, yeah, I am dealing with it. I have no choice to deal with it. Why? Because open adoption isn't legally binding. I have no avenue to take. Right. Again, Tammy, but aborted babies aren't asked what they want. Stop. Every time we mention adoption, somebody mentions abortion. Why? They are two completely separate things, okay? Two completely separate things. It's crazy that certain people and groups of people have just latched on to the issue of abortion in order to justify the corrupt system of adoption. It's weird. So stop doing that. Strange. Abortion is a medical procedure. Adoption is totally different. So anyway, I'm not really sure. Okay, but you went out looking for an adoption agency. No one forced you to do it. Actually, Kate's mom and your dad begged you not to do it, and you ignored them. Anna. Yes, we went looking for an adoption agency because we were in a crisis. Okay, our parents were addicts, alcoholics, crack addicts. Okay, we were getting evicted. So no. Yes, they didn't want me to relinquish my child, but I'm not taking any parenting advice from those two people when they're getting evicted, DUIs, on parole, addicted to drugs and alcohol. What? Crazy. Okay, right here. They're not, though. Some people get pregnant and don't want their baby. Super low percentage. I think, I can't tell you the percentage off the top of my head. But you should read the book Relinquished, and there's a lot of data out there. I think less than 10% of birth parents state that they didn't want their baby. So you're talking over 90% of birth parents who relinquished their children wanted their baby. Okay? So yes, there's very small percentage you're talking about. doesn't represent the majority. So do you regret it? Absolutely. 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 Do you regret relinquishing your child for adoption? Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Yes, I do. And that is a regret that I have made, that I'm making peace with. It's a process. I don't know when it'll happen, or if it'll ever happen. But it's okay to regret, and I'm allowed. I have the capacity to experience that regret, and that is something that I'll have to live with for the rest of my life. So good point. He's not saying he regrets the adoption. He regrets not getting the adoption they literally signed a contract for. So, actually, I would say I regret all of it. Yeah, even with an open adoption, even if I got the open adoption I wanted. Learning, understanding the inevitable trauma that adoptees go through, I never would have done it. I mean, literally, if I would have known about the pre-verbal trauma that adoptees inevitably experience, that would have been enough for me to just be like, no way, I will live in a box. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Because that's crazy. I'm not trying to inevitably, purposely traumatize my baby. So, yeah. Then do you resent your mom for also pushing it because she wasn't a crack addict, etc.? I don't resent my mom at all, actually. I don't resent anyone, really. It's more or less just like, I think there was a lot of mistakes and failed opportunities for adults to come in and try to help, or try to help us navigate this whole thing. So, no, I don't resent my mom for it. Do I have questions? Yeah. Like, I think about it a lot. Like, why was my sister allowed to stay at our house with her boyfriend, her baby daddy at the time, with her 2 kids when she had babies at 19? But, that, why, So anyway, I always have questions. Like, that's interesting to me that was what was happening. But yeah, even my mom has mentioned to me multiple times that I wish I would have went in with you when you went to all these little meetings with Dawn. I wish I would have been more like, my mistake was fully trusting the adoption industry, fully trusting the agency. She's like, that's what I did wrong. Just fully entrusting them, not even questioning anything that they're doing or saying or nothing. And my mom has actually told me multiple times that she had little like weird feelings. She's like, oh God, I would, I'd come home and Dawn would be there. You guys were talking. I would just get this weird feeling. And she's like, I thought it was maybe just me being like, insecure or jealous of like the fact that it's a bad representation on me that my kid has to do this or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. When you're a child giving birth to a baby, it's hell right there. It's just hard all the way around. I agree. Do you wish you would have chose foster care and been able to get her back? No. I do not wish that. You know what I wish? I wish someone would have presented the options, the resources, all the stuff that comes with being a young parent in our situation. I wish we would have had more resources. And if there's data that supports the fact that it was like between $1,200 and $5,000 is the amount of money that all birth mothers more specifically, would have needed to not relinquish their children. Think about that first. That's crazy. All the difference of a couple $1,000 would have prevented the separation of a family. So I think I would never have chosen foster care so I can get my baby back eventually. No, I just wish that our society would have been more helpful. And I wish we took care of our people better. And I think and that's just resources and access to stuff. So the fact that babies are being separated from their mothers for simple things as housing, food, money, that's devastating. That's crazy. So like I've always said, like, I think it's adoption is just an example of our culture and society failing women along the way, somewhere along the way. It wouldn't be necessary if this country had stuff like universal health care and just had simple basic stuff that we decided to take resources and help people who are in poverty or have drug addiction issues, whatever. So yeah. Yeah, so anyway, I'm just trying to go through all the you could have found an open adoption couple, someone who would have understood and not just cut you off. Yeah, I think about a lot about how I would feel if we would have had the open adoption that we planned on. I do think about that, like where would my opinion lie? How would I feel now? Hard to tell. I don't know. But well, if this is any kind of warning or message to anybody, it's that stick to the agreement. Stay child-centered. Show love and compassion for the birth parents. Because if all those things would have been met, I don't even know if I would have even explored the adoption industry the way I have. So if anything, people are very upset about all of this coming to light, and people are very upset and triggered by adoptees sharing their stories and their struggles and all this kind of stuff. And the irony to that is that, well, if everyone involved in the adoption industry would act the right way, do the right things, and be child-centered, you probably wouldn't have all these negative experiences. So, yeah. Holy crap, okay. I don't know who this person is. Block. You said block some. I don't know. Mute. I don't know who this is. What do I do? Remove from live video. Sure. I just removed him. I don't know who that. I don't know what's going on. Sorry guys. I don't know who Fot is. I agree. It would be nice to have more resources, but you did what was the most unselfish thing you could ever have done. You cared more about your child having a better life than you did.
No, he was being weird, saying he'd make you bacon and eggs.
What?
And then he loves you.
Who?
That person you just muted. I tried to mute him.
Oh, Fot or
yeah.
that? I don't even. I talk. I'm not even reading. I mean, I'm trying to read all these things.
He was being weird.
Oh, he's being weird. Someone said be a moderator.
I probably should be.
I don't even know how to do that, guys. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know. And you probably are really annoyed with me rambling, but I like the questions. I enjoy talking. Oh, okay. I see. Everyone's saying photo guy. Just stop. I don't know what's going on. I appreciate everyone's comments. Thank you. Here in Norway, we get $10,000 to buy stuff for the baby if it's twins more, and they help you with an apartment. Wow, Norway, killing it. See, that's what I'm saying. Do your research on all infant adoptions across other countries, why their numbers are so low, and then compare them to the social economic policies in that country, and you'll see a correlation with, oh, they treat their people really well and take care of them, and we have less adoptions there. So, anyway. Sorry, I'm trying to I gotta scroll up and then it keeps scrolling. Are you angry at MTV? They didn't step in. Absolutely not. Why would I be angry at MTV? MTV was there to document what adoption, infant adoption, looked like in this country in 2009. That was their job, and they did it. They did it great. They did a great job of it. So I don't blame MTV for anything. If anything, I'm very grateful. I wouldn't even be having this platform to talk to you guys without MTV. So I have nothing against MTV. I think they did a really great job of showing private infant adoption and what it looks like when you do an open adoption and years after that. I mean, I honestly, like, I think one thing that will come out of this story of mine and my wife's is that this is the first real documented case in real time of an open adoption, how it looks like in this country. And that's rare. That's a rare, very rare. I haven't seen any other story that has covered open adoption from when it started to, you know, post relinquishing and all that kind of stuff. So I think our story, our personal story, probably won't get the recognition it deserves until much later. Maybe we'll be dead by then. I'm not really sure, but I do really believe in my heart and soul that people in the future will look back at this situation, our story, and they will come to an understanding, or they will at least have this it's cemented in history. So I mean, they'll be able to go back and learn about it. So and see how it operates. So I think that's pretty cool. Hi from hey, what's up, Michigan? Or hey, Michigan. No, nothing has changed with our adoptive with my daughter's parents. It's the same. Still cut off, still closed. Yeah, I mean, so people are, I mean, I get it, I understand, but I think it was just a bad match, guys, honestly. They wanted to close, we wanted, you know, at first we wanted semi-open, and then we switched it to open, and it just wasn't a good match. So, let's see. Oh, good question. Do you think surrogacy creates pre-verbal trauma? I don't like to go into surrogacy too much because it's very nuanced, like adoption is. But I will say that when it comes to surrogacy, even though the child is not biologically, DNA-wise, the woman carrying that child isn't biologically related to the child doesn't know that. The baby knows that mother's womb. The baby knows that mother's walk, her gait, her smell, her voice. So yes, I think children, babies, infants that are born through surrogacy do experience pre-verbal trauma. It's kind of inevitable. So it's just the way we're designed, right? So that baby could care less about biology. All they know is that everything they've ever known in their whole life cycle up to that point, and the person carrying them, that's their caretaker. That's their primary resource for survival. So when you rip that away, yes, they still experience it, even though biologically they're not related. The baby doesn't know that. The baby just knows that womb, knows that smell, that mother's voice, that walk. So I wondered, it does make me wonder, like, how will, the more that we learn about pre-verbal trauma and infant adoption and kind of stuff and all that kind of stuff, how will that change and shape surrogacy, in its entirety? It is kind of interesting to me. I know that, they've had a lot of studies that, from NICU babies who are, you know, unfortunately they have something going on medically. They're immediately taken from birth, immediately put in, you know, separate from their mother and all this stuff done to them. And there's a lot, I mean, the studies on those babies, huge cortisol levels in the brain, huge, I mean, they experience immense trauma. So that's just, I mean, that's that's just compiled on top of the mom experiencing trauma with the baby, you know, having issues, medical stuff. So, I don't really think pre-verbal trauma is something that you can escape, even if it is, you know, through surrogacy. So, you didn't have it in your MTV contract that you had to go through with it? No. There's nothing in our contract that said you had to go through with this. I actually think a couple producers and I think some of them thought we weren't going to go through with it, to be honest. So, yeah, I mean, listen, people, you don't gotta waste time defending me in the comments. Like, these people, I mean, I get it, I understand. You know, it's not necessary. It's fine. This is their opinion and their perception. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I will. I get everyone like saying that they feel bad and stuff, and I appreciate it. At the end of the day, though, I think it's important to take accountability for the position that me and Kate found ourselves in, which is we weren't responsible. We didn't take precautions. We didn't use protection. We didn't. We were young kids in love, just experiencing each other with no fear and naive, with our naive, underdeveloped brains. And that is what got us in the situation that we were in. So I don't blame anyone but ourselves, more specifically me, to be honest. Yeah, so, you know, I talked about it I actually talked about it in the last season of Teen Mom or whatever, where I went to do ketamine treatment, and, you know, I came to the conclusion that, you know, I'm not saying it was all my fault, but I'm just saying I think I had more. I think I'm more at fault than Kate is, because I was such a hypersexual child from being sexually abused as a kid. It just wired that in me. So I think that is what caused it to happen. What?
Don't blame yourself.
No, I'm not. I know. I'm not blaming myself. Oh my God, I'm not blaming myself. I'm saying, I know. Well,
hold on to that.
I'm not holding on. It's an acceptance. It's a thing. I don't judge, but I'm not like beat myself up for it. What I'm saying is that I think it's important to take on accountability for how I was, even though I was naive and 16 and young and whatever. I know we both were. She's yelling at me. And I get what she's saying. I understand. Like I said, I'm not saying it's all my fault. I'm saying I take more of the blame because I was the one who was hypersexual and just, you know, from my own trauma, and that caused, the more times you do it, the odds, you know, the risk goes up. So, yeah. Anyway, that's what I meant. She's yelling at me. Trying to get through, guys, there's a lot, man. Yeah, I think you're right. There's persons, like, you know, people judge and they criticize because they just haven't experienced it. They don't know. Less than 2% of women choose adoption. The whole population, less than 2%, 2% are adoptees. So this is a very, very tiny, small minority group. And so I don't expect people to have unlimited amount of empathy and compassion, because they're not in the space. So, yeah, I mean, I get it, you know.